Hello, parents. My name is Archana. I have been working in the field of early childhood education for the last 15 years. My specialty is working with children in the age groups 6 to about 8. In this process, I have been associated with a number of preschools across the country, helping them to develop curriculum, helping them to develop teacher training programs, doing teacher training, working with children directly, handling parent sessions. I am very excited to be here with you all today. My special field of interest is creative learning. I am a storyteller. I am a drama teacher. I love working with children of this age group with drama, with music, and with stories. And I am also a reading expert. So what I'm going to be sharing with you today is how do we build skills in our children in the ages, let's say 1.5 to about 8 years old. How do we build reading skills in them? And I know that reading skills are very important because this is one skill that stays with us right through adulthood, right into old age. When we grow old and there are fewer and fewer people whom we can call friends, reading is perhaps the only companion that stays along with us. So the skill that we are building in our children has to last them right up to that time. So it's a very long period of time that we are looking at. And because it is such a long period of time, it is very important for us to realize that we must not rush into it either. We must give space and time for our children to become good at reading. So, many times when we say reading, parents are very excited and they are all ready to admire their own children and maybe show off a little bit that, my child can read this and my child can read that. But really, parents, it's not about how many words your child can read. It's about how many words do they really understand. And when you say understand, it's not just about reading and telling you what that word is. It is about understand the meaning and understanding how to use that word to associate it with other things that they have learned earlier, and how to use that word and create something new with it. So that is what is the final test of whether your child is really reading or not. So reading is not just a physical process of looking at a word and telling you what it is. Reading is not a physical process of getting 10 out of 10 in dictation. Reading is comprehension. If we cannot comprehend, we cannot read. And whatever we can read is of no use if we cannot understand what we are reading and then with that understanding, apply it, right? So today we're going to be looking at how do we help our children develop these skills so that it becomes useful to them in their life. And it's not just a rote memory process, but it becomes a dynamic process of learning words, using words. So that's what we're going to be really looking at. I'm just going to share my presentation with you now. I hope you can see this. So reading, parents, is not a very simple process. It is pretty complicated. It involves the whole system of vision, okay? It involves the system of hearing and listening, and it involves thinking and understanding and associating and creating, and all that happens here. So listening happens here, seeing happens here, and then here is where the actual thinking, understanding, applying, all that happens here. And finally, communication happens from here. So all these processes are involved in the reading process, right? So it's not a very simple thing. It is complicated. That is why we have to give it that much more time. Okay. Now we all want our children to become good readers. Okay. Which means we want them to learn how to read. Okay. But here is the truth about learning. Okay. If we want our children to learn, these are the various things that need to happen. That is when learning happens. Okay. We need to make sure, for example, reading. We need to make sure that our children are reading, that is, they can read. Okay. Once they have read, it goes here and it gets comprehended or understood. After that, there is a lot of thinking that happens inside the head, which helps the child to associate whatever you have just read to some other previous information which is there. It helps the child to then improve the level of understanding. Okay. And then it helps the child to create something new that he or she is going to tell you, or he or she is going to write about, or he or she is going to draw, right? So these are the various processes that are happening within the child when we talk about reading. So it requires time and it requires space. We mustn't allow ourselves to rush the child, to push the child. It will not work. If we want our children to understand completely and comprehend, I must tell you that the ASER is a test or an evaluation that India conducts year on year. And about 3 years back, when the ASER results came out, and ASER evaluates the level. Last year, when, I hope you can hear me. So last year, when the ASER came out, the ASER said that children who are in grade 6 are not able to understand or comprehend the textbook of a second standard. So just reading is not what is important. It's that much more important. So those are something we need to keep in mind when we are talking to our children about reading. So it's not just reading, it is comprehension that is more important. And that requires time because it is a complicated process. So here is how to build reading skills in our children. Okay. The first thing that we need to do is help our children build print awareness. The second thing that we need to do is to help our children understand that there are 26 letters in the English alphabet. Each of these letters have their own sounds, and that is what we call phonemic awareness. The third thing that we need to do is help our children to build their understanding of sounds of the letters and the relationship that these letters have with other letters when they come together to form the word. So that is what we call phonics. And syllabalization. How does one word break into its component syllables? So that is what we call syllabalization. Syllabalization helps children to spell better, right? So if there are some children who find it a little difficult to comprehend phonics, for such children, syllabalization helps them a lot when they have to break a longer word into smaller components and then improve their spellings. The fourth one is, if I have to be a good reader, I have to be able to recognize words and understand their meaning, right? So the more the number of words that I'm able to recognize and understand, the better I will be as a reader. So before we help our children to become better readers, we need to ensure that they have a good vocabulary. And that is what we do in schools. We help them to understand, let's say, about 100 nouns, by the time they reach the upper KG. And then there are another about 150 frequently used words, sight words, that children learn by the time they come. So by the time they are in upper KG, they have a vocabulary of about a minimum of 250 words, sometimes more, but definitely a minimum of 250 words. So that's really what we are looking at. So this vocabulary that we help our children to develop, again, is not just about reading the word, but it is about understanding the meaning of that word, right? And once our children have learned, have kind of more familiar with vocabulary and words, it's very, 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 very important for them to start speaking these words with confidence, right? And how do you do that? You help them to develop confidence in using words. Many times as parents, we try to oversimplify things by using small words, easy words. But children are fantastic at even big words, and they're very excited with big words. So it's very important that we keep using new words with our children when we speak to them. And they will turn around and ask you, Amma, what does this mean? And then you can tell them what it means, and they will learn it. And they'll try to use it in sentences while talking back to you or talking with their friends, right? So speaking is a very important precursor to reading. In fact, when we do our B.Ed, we are taught that it is L, S, R, and W. So first comes listening. If our children can listen well, then they can speak well. So the second is speaking. So they have to listen and they have to speak. And once they have mastered listening and speaking, that is when they are ready to read, right? So if we force our children to read too early, it kills the entire process. So be patient with your children. And yes, only when we have mastered listening, speaking, and reading is when we can expect our children to be ready to write. So again, don't be in a hurry to write. I have worked with a lot of preschools where we do not encourage writing unless it is in the upper KG. In the lower KG and in the preschool or the pre-KG classrooms, we only do strokes, we do various pre-writing skills, we use clay, we use sand, but we do not get them to write until it's actually the upper KG. But I know today's parents are in a huge hurry. So every time we have to answer questions from parents. Why is my child not writing? In that school, they are writing so much. Why in my school, they are not writing? So children need to be ready to write. And when they are ready to write, it starts happening like this. So I think the basic learning we all need to take as parents is there is a time for everything, and that needs to be respected. Once we have helped them to be good at speaking, that's when they are really, really ready to start reading. You have already given them a good vocabulary. You have given them the phonic skills. You have built the phonic awareness. They are already aware of print awareness, and then they are ready to start reading and understanding whatever they are reading. And of course, fluency is something that develops at every stage. Every step, there is fluency that needs to be developed. Fluency is nothing but the ease with which they start doing whatever is that particular activity. So we'll be going into that as we go along. So print awareness. Print awareness is about children understanding that all these squiggly things that they see here actually represent a word, right? And they also learn slowly as we do more and more reading with them. As parents, when you take a storybook to them and start reading with them, they learn about how a sentence, how a book has to be opened. It has to be opened like this. What is the front cover? What is the back cover? What is the top of the book? What is the bottom of the book? How do sentences start? Where do they begin? They begin from here, they end here. They begin from here, they end here. So they start understanding all these things, and it becomes, the movement of the eye from left to right when they are reading. All this is established with print awareness. And the more we expose our children to books of various kinds, maybe poetry books sometimes, maybe story books sometimes, maybe the newspaper sometimes, the more the different kinds of material that we can expose them to, the more their awareness about the print grows, right? Right. As I was telling you in the beginning, we may start with books and storybooks, but as they grow up, they will be using different things. They will read a newspaper, maybe they will have a menu to follow, maybe. So different kinds of things come across their way as they grow. So their reading skills need to be applied at that stage. So in the upper KG, for example, you have a lot of cooking that happens in the class. So that's when they follow the menu and they're able to see, okay, this is also a book, but it is a cookbook and it is organized in a different way. It's not like a storybook where you have a lot of funny pictures and you have sentences that start here. Here you have a list. You have something that is listed like that. So they slowly get into understanding all these various things. The more we are able to expose them to different kinds of books. What about the next thing that we're going to be talking about? Phonemic awareness. So like I told you earlier, phonemic awareness is just the knowledge that there are 26 letters in the English alphabet. Each of these letters have a particular name and a particular sound. So this is letter A, which has the sound A. And this is letter B, which has the sound B. And this is letter C, which has the sound K. Right? So this awareness is what we call phonemic awareness. It's very important for us to build phonemic awareness in children. And how do you do this? You do this by playing games with them. One thing about this age group, below the ages of 7 and 8, learning happens only when there is a lot of fun involved. Learning happens only when there is a lot of love involved. And learning does not happen when there is fear, anger, hurt, threat, hunger, lack of sleep. Okay? So if your child is tired or restless, if your child is hungry, if your child has not slept well the previous day, if your child is having some pain in the body, maybe a stomach ache, maybe a headache, these are all reasons why learning does not happen, right? And if you are angry with the child, learning does not happen. Learning happens when there is a lot of love and when there is a lot of fun. So with this age group, every learning is associated with games, right? So what kind of games can we play with the children to help them to be phonemically aware? Apologies for the spelling error there. So phonemic awareness is all about helping the child understand how to recognize letters from a print. Okay, so one of the games you can play is with the newspaper. So take a newspaper, choose a certain article in the newspaper and say, okay, can we underline all the words that start with J, right? So children have to search, and here again, children have to do it, not you. You are just a watcher. The child is the doer, because unless the child does, the child does not learn. Okay, so you do not please interfere. Allow the child, even if there are mistakes, it is fine. Allow the child to find the words that begin with J. The child may ask you, is this J, Daddy? Amma, is this J? So that time you can look clearly and help the child to understand whether it's J or not. But until you are asked, please do not interfere with the process. Let us see how much the child is able to do on her own. the more they are able to do on their own, the better it is for them. So these are the kind of games. You can also look at other objects in your room and play an I spy. I spy an object that begins with P in the room. Can you find it? And the child has to point to any object in the room which begins with P. It could be a picture frame. It could be a pot that you have kept in the in the room. So whatever the child remembers. So in this way, you are building phonemic awareness. And once you have said that, yes, this really does begin with P, do you remember what is the sound that the letter P makes? And then the child is able to associate the letter name with the letter sound. So the more these kind of games you are able to play with the child, the more confident the child is going to be as far as phonemic awareness is concerned. When you are driving around in the car, you can look out the window and say, I can see something on the road that begins with T. Can you see it and tell me what it is? Maybe it's a tree that you have seen, right? So the child has to think now, T. What else is, what here is starting with T? And then he looks at the tree and says, tree. And then perhaps if there's a dog that you can see, you can say, oh, now I can see something that begins with the D. Who can tell me, can you tell me what I'm looking at? So the child will look around and search around and see the dog and say, dog. So that way you're building phonemic awareness by playing these kind of games. They don't require too much of your time. It's just your own commitment and awareness that you need to be bringing into the whole thing. So let's look at the next one, phonics. I know that all of you have already had a session on phonics, so I'm not getting into the details of it, but phonics helps us to spell, right? It helps us to understand the relationship between one letter and the next letter and how one letter can influence another letter. How is it pronounced, right? It helps us to understand this. So spelling and pronunciation are two skills that phonics brings into the child's learning system. Okay, so the stronger the phonics, the stronger the child will be at spelling and at pronunciation. In the beginning, children learn by decoding. So when you show them a book, right, when you show them a book, the child looks at the individual letters first. Okay, so these are early learning. So let's say this will happen in the pre-KG and the LKG classrooms. The child will be breaking the word down into individual letters. So they will tell you that this is F and F has the sound F. Okay, and they will tell you all the letters and each sound, and then they will try and put it together and they will arrive at the final word. So it takes time. It's not an easy process. Okay, so that is what it is. So this is called decoding. Okay, but once the child becomes a little more familiar, okay, maybe in the upper KG, that is when the child is able to code. Code basically means that just by listening to the word, so you are going to say the word, let's say house, okay? The child just by listening to the word is able to write the spelling by, understanding what are the different sounds that he's hearing and is able to write the spelling. So that is why things like dictation generally begin only in the upper KG, towards the end of upper KG. Many children who are in the lower kindergarten will find it difficult if we have a dictation given at that time. That's probably because they are, they still are in the process of decoding and they have not yet mastered the skills of coding. So this is something that we need to be aware about. So as parents, when you are trying to help your child to decode and code, decoding, encourage it, keep asking them, okay, so this is the story we're going to do today. Let us see what it is. Let's see what the name of the book is, okay? So can you read this for me? What is this? So please, as over enthusiastic parents, please don't go and tell them the word beforehand. Allow them to arrive at the word. It's very exciting for them, right? So this is how you can encourage them to decode, and then later on you can help them also to code by giving them small exercises at home where you say, okay, now I'm going to say a word and I want you to tell me what are the different sounds that you are hearing. Okay, so you can take any word and do it and get your child to tell you the sounds. So now you know that you are also stimulating him to code. So decoding happens in pre-KG and LKG. Coding starts happening towards the end of LKG and starting of the UKG. So keep this in mind and keep giving them examples and challenges. It will keep them growing. After we have built phonemic awareness, after we have built the phonics skills, it's very, very important simultaneously to help them to increase their vocabulary, right? We were talking earlier about how a child in the UKG knows a minimum of 250 words, right? There is no maximum really, because it depends on the exposure that the child has had. So as a parent, that is your primary role. You know, a school will probably ensure that the basic minimum of 250 words is definitely met, right? But as a parent, you can take that further and you can ensure that by exposing them to different kinds of books, their awareness about different words keeps increasing. So whereas the school has given them 250 words as the basic minimum number of words, as a parent, you would probably be able to add another 100, another 150 words to that. Now, here again, please do not be over enthusiastic. This is not a competition. We are not here to say that, oh, I have added another 200 words to your vocabulary. That's not what we are talking about. We are just saying that our children, if we expose them to more number of words, are able to grasp. Now, how many are they able to grasp will depend from child to child. And please, here again, do not make them mug up, do not force them. You are just exposing them. It will stay in their mind. It will come back at some other time. It may not be big pictures, more pictures than words, right? So that's why we use these kind of, and we help children to interpret pictures. So it's please very important when you are reading to your child and when you have a book in your hand, please do not ignore the pictures. Okay. In fact, when I do reading with the children, what I always do is I ask them, children, what do you think this is? And I wait for the child to tell me what he thinks it is. Some children will say van, some children will say car, some children will say truck, some children will say fire engine. People over here who are driving it, and look what they're carrying. They're carrying a big ladder. This is not the way to tell the story or use a book. The idea is to help them to tell you what they know. They may not know anything at all. It may be the first time that they're even seeing something like this. That's why they may tell you truck or van or something like that. That is fine. After they give you their answer, then you say, yes, this is a truck, but it's a very special truck. It is a truck that's carrying something over here. Can you see what they're carrying? Oh my God, it looks like a pole, right? What do you think it looks like? And then, you have a few guessing rounds. And then you say, children, let's go inside the book and see what they're doing really, okay? And by the end of the book, they will understand that this is a special kind of a truck called fire engine, right? So that's the way to really help them build their knowledge. So pictures are very important, pictures to words. So they understand as you are reading to them that each picture represents a particular word. So you draw attention to it. Wherever it appears in the book, you are able to draw your child's attention to the fact that this is a fire engine. See, fire engine. So you are able to put your finger under the word so that they are able to relate this picture to this word. And that's how they understand. So again, over here, please do not be in a hurry. Do not think they will remember everything at one go. It will take time. But when children are small, we do repeat our stories quite a number of times. So children also have their favorites. They ask you to repeat these stories for them. So please do that. Reading is always encouraged by using storybooks as props. So the more storybooks you are able to use with them, the better will be their reading skills. When you are reading to them, ensure that you put your finger under each word that you are reading. As you read, make sure that your finger also goes along with the word. It's very important because that's when they learn print awareness. I'm going to now talk about rebus reading. Beginning readers are all rebus readers. They love rebus reading. They feel very confident to read when we use rebus reading. Rebus reading is nothing but using an object in the middle of a sentence to represent a particular word which may be a little complex for the child. So this is one example of a rebus reader. A 4-leaf clover will bring you good luck, Grandma said. So clover is a very difficult word for a kindergartner. So instead of writing clover, the picture of clover is drawn there. Some children who are not familiar with clover may be explained early on what it is before the teacher introduces the rebus reader. So you get a lot of rebus reading books in bookstalls. Of course, they are all available on the internet. You can download rebus reading according to the age of your child and use rebus readers. These are very good skill builders for reading. And it's very easy. It's a lot of fun. You can also make your own rebus reader. So if you want to, if for example, you have, let's say, a pet, a dog, and you want to write a story about your dog. So every time the word dog comes, you can put the picture of the dog. And every time you want to talk about something else that the dog did, like for example, the dog jumped over the fence, you can actually draw a small fence there for the word fence. Or if you want to talk about how the dog played with the ball, so you can draw the ball for the word. So like that, you can create your own rebus stories as well. And that's another big fun exercise for the child. Picture talk, object talk, all these are very important for the child to be able to understand, how to use the existing knowledge to be able to communicate. So when you show the child a picture, let's say, if you show the child this picture, the child should be able to see and tell you what is happening in this picture. What do you think is happening here? So that is what is called picture talk. Object talk is you can take any object in the room. Well, this is what I have right now to show you, a remote, and ask the child to tell you anything about the remote. So he may tell you, the child may say, the remote is black in color. The remote has many buttons. I use the remote to put on the TV. So, many sentences like that. But this is how the child develops the concept of using sentences to be able to communicate. So remember, we said first listening and then speaking, and after speaking comes reading. So all these are moving the child towards reading, right? So it's important for us to develop their skill of speaking. So use a rebus reader, use picture talk, use object talk as often as you can to help the child to keep the excitement. And always do this as fun. Please don't make it like a chore. Please don't make it like a tension-filled thing. Then again, you're killing it. Okay, so it's very important that you keep it fun. So Ad-Lib unstructured sentences, very important again, and I'm going to sort of combine the next 3 things: Ad-Lib, unstructured sentences, experience talk and imaginary talk. So I'm going to combine this and share an exercise with you. It's very important for us to build imagination and visualization in our children. What is the difference between imagination and visualization? Visualization is remembering. For example, let's take the example of a beach, right? All of us have gone to a beach, and we all know what happens on a beach. So when I say the word beach, what are the things that comes to you? You will probably tell me that there is sand, there is water, there is a breeze, there is the sun, there are people who are selling bhaji, bonda, bhelpuri, and 100 other things. Maybe there are beggars, maybe there are people who have horses, they want the child to take a horse ride. So there are all these different things that are happening on the beach, right? So this is called visualization. How do we know this? Because we have all gone to the beach and we have seen all this. So that's visualization. But what is imagination? Imagination is the ability to be able to see in your mind what you have not seen with your eyes. For example, suppose instead of the beach, I told you we are all going to Mars or Venus or Jupiter, right? Now, you've never been, I mean, I've never been, and none of us have ever been there, right? So how do we describe it now? Like when we said beach, we talked about the sand and the water and so many different things. But when we say Mars, what do we talk about? So now we get children to tell us, okay, we are going to go to Mars. Now tell me, what is it that you're seeing? What is it that you're feeling? What is it that you can experience, right? So they bring out words that they know or they think they may have heard somewhere, right? That is their imagination, and there's nothing right or wrong about it. Okay, so why is imagination and visualization important? When we read to our children, or when our children read on their own, every author, whether it is a textbook, whether it is a storybook, okay, cannot write everything in detail, right? There are always little gaps in information. For that gaps to fill, the child needs to use imagination and visualization. So that is why imagination and visualization are so important for the child, right? So how do you develop imagination and visualization? By doing these small activities. Actually, drama is a very good tool for developing imagination and visualization. The more you expose them to theater and drama skills in children, the more they are able to visualize and imagine. And I mean, children are already very imaginative. It's just that that particular skill needs to be brought in to help them fill the gaps that are there in the reading. So that's what we are trying to do here. So when they are able to imagine on their own and visualize on their own, right, they are then able to put it in unstructured sentences. What is an unstructured sentence? Something which you have not coached your child in. So it is their own sentence coming out. Okay. So the more we are able to help them to think for themselves and convert that thought into unstructured speech, the better they are able to convey the meaning of whatever they are understanding, whatever they are thinking. And that helps in the reading process, because reading comprehension also requires the same process, right? This is just to tell you about the number of words, and I'm sure you've already noted that by the time the child reaches upper KG, we require about 250 words as the basic minimum that they need to know. Of course, there are children who know more of this, and that is dependent on how much awareness we are able to create in them by giving them more and more exposure to books, right? I spoke about the importance of unstructured speech, about imagination and visualization. So now we are reaching almost towards the last aspect that I'm going to be talking to you about today, which is reading comprehension. Now, that's something I've already been talking about right from the beginning, that until a child understands what he's reading, it's not going to be of any use, right? So it's not about, oh, my child, he can read so many words. No, that's not it. Whatever the child is reading, how much is he able to understand? How much is he then able to communicate using that? Is he able to talk back and tell you these words? Is he able to use these words in different sentences? So these are things that are more important, right? So how do you encourage children to do this? So here are some activities for you, okay? Guessing games, right? When I tell a story, I never tell them what's going to happen next, and I'm never in a hurry to turn the page. So after I've started telling them the story, children, what do you think this is? Oh, yes, this is a dog. You're right. What do you think he's doing? What do you think he's doing? He looks like he's chasing this, right? Oh my God, what is this? It looks like something, it looks like a letter, an envelope, right? Now, who do you think has brought this? Who's brought this letter here? Who's brought it here, do you think? Yeah, maybe it's the postman. You're right. Oh, yes. Maybe, somebody had kept it on the table and it fell down or it flew down. Maybe somebody put the fan, right? Good. So now here is the important thing. Get them to give you the ideas, right? Okay. And he's looking at this. The dog is looking at this. And what is he? Is he happy? Is he sad? What is he? Happy. He looks excited, right? Yeah, excellent. See, excited is a new word, right? So when you are excited, you look happy, and you're all set to jump and catch this, maybe, correct? Oh my God, look at this. Woof, rough, woof. What is this, children? Rough, woof, rough? Ah, the dog is barking. Correct. Yes. So let me read this to you. Join in with this barking dog. Oh God, yes, children, you were right. This is a dog and he's barking. Okay. What do you think he's barking at? Letters. Yes, you're right. Then turn the page and make more noise and do some doggy stuff. Oh my God, we're going to be turning the page and doing more things. Children, what more things do you think a dog can do? What can the dog do? Right now he's barking. What else does the dog do? Ah, dog licks, correct. Dog licks. What else can he do? The dog jumps, correct. Excellent. Now, shall we turn the page and see what's going to happen next? Shall we? Okay, great. So before you turn the page, please make sure you try to, kind of excite the children about the next page. And now the children are all ready to see what is going to happen in the next page. Dinner time for greedy dog. Oh my God, what is this dog doing? What do you think this is, children? Is it food? Oh, wow, look at this. So much food. What kind of food do you think it is? What can you see over here? Bones. Yeah, that's right. Excellent. Chomp, munch, chew. Okay, what's the dog doing? He's eating. Excellent. Very good. So like this, and this is the guessing part of it. What do you think is going to happen next? What do you think will happen when I turn the page? What do you think you're going to see? So like this, when you build the excitement before you turn the page, it helps the child to imagine or visualize. What do you think will happen next, right? So you're building the skill over there. You're trying to help the child to fill in the blanks. Yeah. Recall. After you tell the story, always ask the child to tell it back to you in some form or the other. So now you have told the story with the storybook. After some time, leave the storybook and tell the story yourself without the storybook, and ask the child to help you fill in the blanks. So children, okay, now I'm going to tell you that, you remember that story about the dog? I'll tell you that story, okay? the first, what that dog was doing? He was barking. I've forgotten why he was barking. Why was he barking? And let the child remember that he was barking at the letter, right? So this is the way you help the child to recall. So what are you doing? You have told the story. You are now helping the child to remember and recall and memorize. From memory, you're helping the child to bring it back. Okay, that is also important. Our children need to remember what they have learned, right? But it doesn't come by mugging up. It only happens when you do it this way, through a fun activity. Yes? Retelling. So can we retell the story together? And what if, right? So the easiest example that I can give you for what if is, take a simple story that the child knows. For example, let us say, you can use the thirsty crow, or you can use lion and the mouse. You say that everybody knows the lion and the mouse story, right? The lion was sleeping, the mouse came and disturbed the lion, and the lion got very angry. He caught the little mouse and said, "Oh, I'm going to eat you up." And the mouse said, "Please, Mr. Lion, please let me go. I'm going to become a very good friend of yours, and I will never let you down. Whenever you need help, I'll come and help you." And the lion said, "Ha, ha, ha. I'm so big. What help will you give me?" But he lets the mouse go. And then one day when he's trapped, the mouse comes and saves him. That's a good story, right? But what if the lion was a scaredy cat? And the lion had a voice like kee, 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 like that. And the mouse was a brave mouse and had a voice like, "Oh, lion, let me go." What if he was that kind of a mouse? How would the story change? Right? So it's fun to figure out how will the child think that the story can change when when a certain situation in the story changes. So this is called the what if exercise. Now, if your child has understood the first story of the lion and the mouse, he or she will be very easily able to give you a lot of alternatives for the what ifs. So this is how you understand whether the child has really comprehended or understood what you have been speaking or reading to the child. And the child will be able to respond back to you in the recall activity, in the retelling activity, in the what if activity. And all this helps you to build reading comprehension, right? So that's what is very, very important. Now, the last thing I'm going to be talking to you about is fluency. Now, fluency is right through the process. What is fluency? How often do we do this with our children? So, it's very, very important to make this like a daily thing with the parent and the child. Of course, in school, they are exposed to a lot of things. But, every day we say that, every night before the child goes to bed, spend 15 minutes with a storybook with the child. And when you read to the child, you are reading to build a bond with the child, to feel close with the child, to remember we said that a child learns through fun and love. So you are building the love concept when you read to the child just before the child is about to go off to sleep, right? And when you play all these different games and activities throughout the day with your child, that is when you are able to bring in the fun component. So a combination of the fun element and a combination of the love element helps the child to become better and better, helps the child to develop a very positive approach towards reading. And once the child is happy reading, the child then wants to read more and more. Becomes like a challenge. I want to read this book. I want to read that book. It becomes like a challenge. And when at one stage, maybe somewhere in the upper KG, the child will say, "Today I will read the book by myself." Sometimes it happens even in the lower KG. And please, at that time, allow the child to do it. Don't say, no, this is very complicated. You can't do it. I only have to do it. So don't be an over-enthusiastic parent. Allow the child to make mistakes. From mistakes, they learn better. But more than anything else, they develop the confidence when you convey to them that, yeah, sure, go ahead, read on your own. I'm there to support you whenever you require help. So you are giving them the confidence that you can go ahead and do it on your own, right? And that's again another very important thing. So love and fun helps you to build positive reading experiences. So play a lot of games with your children, help your children to develop phonemic awareness, help them to strengthen their phonics and their spelling skills, help them to learn new words every day, help them to whatever words they have learned, help them to imagine and visualize and put them in sentences of their own, and help them to play the what if games, the recalling games, the retelling games, uh, to understand whether they have really comprehended what they have been reading. So I think that's what I had to share with you today. I hope that you have found it useful. I'm just sharing some of these things with you. When you talk about reading, there are different levels of reading. Some of them enumerated: level 1, level 2, level 3. Many of us use the grading, that is level A, level B, level C. By the time your child reaches the upper KG, we expect the child to be at reading level E. So A, B, C, D, and E are the skills that we need to develop from pre-KG through LKG up to UKG. So I'm just giving you some of these things. Reading level A recognizes letters, recognizes the sounds of the letters, points to the words while reading, uses pictures to support understanding, knows the difference between words and pictures, one sentence per page with simple words. So that is what a book should be when you are reading to beginners, and reads high frequency words like the, and, is, can, it. All of that is easy for the child to read. So that is when you know that your child is at learning level A, reading level A. What about B? Follow a sentence over 2 lines of text. So in the first case, you had only 1 line of text. Here you have 2 lines of text. Continue to point to words while reading. Recognizes the pattern throughout the story. That means there will be perhaps some event that keeps recurring through the story. He's able to recognize it. That first this happens, then this happens. Then again this happens, then again this happens. Reread to fix reading mistakes. He's a child who is at reading level B has the patience to reread to fix any mistakes that he or she has made in the first round of reading. And read high frequency words like and, my, like, see, is, can, it. Okay. Reading level C, simple stories with 2 to 6 lines of text on a page, is able to notice repetition. Okay. Begins to follow text with eyes rather than by pointing fingers. Till now, they will use fingers to point to the words and the pictures. Slowly, when they reach reading level C, they will be able to follow it with their eyes. And then they strategize to help understanding and correcting their own mistakes. And then they read, of course, high frequency words again. This is your reading level D. They can read fiction and simple nonfiction. So what is nonfiction? Something which has a relation to their textbook, perhaps, right? So continue to follow the text with the eyes rather than using the finger to point. Read a text with fewer lines of repeated words. Read compound words, slightly bigger words, okay? Association of 2 small words together. Newspaper, sandbox, okay, and words ending with ing. Continue to correct mistakes and some more frequency words. And this is your reading level E, which is what we want our children to achieve before they leave UKG. So they should be able to read a storybook with 3 or 8 lines of text, follow the eyes with the text rather than using their finger to point, reading texts that require more attention for understanding, follow punctuations. That means wherever there's a comma, they will pause. When there's a full stop, they will stop, like that. Take apart long words. So if there is a long word, they will try to split it into syllables. Rely on the meaning from the text rather than pictures. read fluently, read easy, high frequency words. So this is where we expect our upper KG to be. So here are some points for you. Read at the pace of the child. Use your emotions to help the child to understand what you are reading, voice modulation, expression of the face, all this helps. Interact with the child, constantly ask questions, ask them whether they are liking it, discuss some event or activity that you have done, which is similar to what you are seeing in the book, and make the reading session meaningful by relating it to the child's life or something that you have experienced together. So I hope that I have given you some tips to help you improve reading. I hope you've gotten an understanding of why reading is such a complex process. Give your child time. Do not rush. Make it fun and give the child a lot of love, encouragement. Tell the child that you're very proud of him or her. All this will help the child have a very positive outlook towards reading. Wish you a very happy reading.